So the next time if you ever shout into an empty canyon and hear your voice bounce back, physics tells you that you're just experiencing sound waves reflecting off rock.
Right. Yeah. Completely neat, clean, clinical phenomenon.
Exactly. But ancient mythology tells this radically different story. Because if you lived in ancient Greece, you wouldn't be thinking about acoustic physics at all.
Oh, not even a little bit.
No. You would actually believe you were hearing the literal ghost of a woman who was tortured, robbed of her free will, and forced to watch the love of her life literally starve to death.
Yeah, it is incredibly bleak. We treat everyday vocabulary as purely functional,
Yeah.
Like you need to describe a sound repeating itself. You reach for the word echo, and you really don't give it a second thought.
Right, it's just a word.
But this specific deep dive into our sources today reveals that this unassuming four-letter word is carrying centuries of just intense psychological horror.
It really is.
Today, our mission is tracking the etymology and the Greek mythology behind the word echo. And by dissecting this origin story, we are actually looking at a complex treatise on human communication. The terrifying, meticulously calculated vengeance of the gods and the profound danger of losing your agency.
And the contrast between how cleanly we use the word today and the sheer, just bloody devastation of its origin is exactly why we need to unpack this for you today. Because you have to imagine stripping away our modern understanding of acoustics and stepping onto a very specific stage where this tragedy unfolds.
Yeah, location is everything here. In Greek mythology, the environment is never just a passive backdrop. It functions as an active participant, like a mechanism of fate. Our sources locate this entire narrative on Mount Cithaeron, which is this jagged mountain range in central Boeotia, just north of Athens.
Okay, so a very specific spot.
Exactly. And this is where Echo, who is a mountain nymph and Ored, technically this is where she spends her life. But Mount Cithaeron has a very distinct character. It is an untamed frontier where the rules of civilized Greek society are completely suspended, and these raw, unpredictable cosmic forces just kind of take over.
Which is wild, because if the mountain is an active participant, it seems engineered specifically for ruin. Like, you read the surrounding myths set in this exact location, and a really distinct pattern emerges for anyone who steps foot there.
Oh, totally.
Because this is the exact same soil where the legendary hunter Actaeon was transformed into a stag, right? And then just torn limb from limb by his own hunting hounds.
Yeah, the Actaeon story really establishes the mountain's core function. It's a place of fatal boundary crossing. Like Actaeon accidentally saw the goddess Artemis bathing.
Which is a huge mistake.
Right, massive. He looked at something he wasn't supposed to see, and the mountain became the site of his absolute destruction. And, it's not just Actaeon.
There's more.
Yeah, Mount Cithaeron is the specific slope where the infant Oedipus was abandoned to die with his ankles pinned together, which basically kicks off the most infamous tragic loop in Western literature.
It's like, okay, it's not just a cursed traffic intersection in town where accidents just randomly happen. Mount Cithaeron functions more like the deep web or, international waters.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, it's this isolated zone where the guardrails of civilization just vanish. Like, if you step onto this mountain, you are exposed to the rawest, most dangerous elements of the universe. The environment itself is essentially a pressure cooker, and it's designed to test flaws in a character's judgment.
And that structural inevitability is crucial here. The mountain isolates you, it strips away your protections, and it amplifies your fatal flaws. So when Echo's story begins here, we already understand that the landscape is primed for a catastrophic failure of judgment.
We know it's not going to end with a happily ever after.
Not at all. Yeah. And that failure doesn't involve a monster or a war or anything like that. It starts with a domestic dispute among the most powerful beings in the cosmos, and Echo making a very calculated, very disastrous tactical decision.
Right, because she doesn't just get caught in the crossfire. She actively inserts herself into the firing line, which is so wild.
Hey.
The sources describe Zeus doing what Zeus notoriously does, which is misbehaving.
As always.
As always, yeah. He's cavorting with Echo's fellow nymphs in the shadows of Cithaeron. And naturally, Hera, his powerful and, let's be honest, rightly suspicious wife,
Very rightly suspicious.
she descends from Olympus to investigate and catch him in the act.
And Hera is operating with this righteous, terrifying focus. She's the queen of the gods, and she's basically executing a sting operation.
Yeah.
Echo recognizes the imminent destruction coming for her peers, and she decides to intercept Hera. But she doesn't use physical force or magic to do it.
No.
She uses her most defining trait, which is her voice. Echo deploys this continuous, relentless stream of chatter, gossip, and storytelling to basically stonewall Hera.
It's like a cognitive denial of service attack on a goddess.
Yes.
She is weaponizing conversation just to steal time.
That is a brilliant way to describe the tactic.
Yeah.
She creates this verbal labyrinth that Hera gets temporarily lost in. And, I mean, it is highly effective in the short term.
It works for a minute.
Yeah. The chatter buys enough time for the other nymphs to realize the danger and flee the mountain. But the fatal flaw in Echo's strategy is assuming she can permanently outsmart omniscience.
Which you just can't do.
No. Hera eventually pieces together the deception. She realizes the nymphs are gone, and she recognizes exactly how Echo manipulated the situation. Echo used her voice to rob Hera of her objective.
See, this is where I have to pause for a second, because the mechanics of Hera's retaliation are so chilling to me. Like, I keep wondering, why not just strike Echo with lightning?
Right.
Or if the crime was talking too much, why not just cut out her tongue and render her entirely mute? It seems like complete silence would be the most efficient fix.
Well, see, efficiency isn't the goal for the ancient Greek gods. Poetic justice is the goal.
Ah, okay.
A physical death or complete muteness is just too blunt for them. It doesn't teach a lesson about the specific nature of the transgression. Hera wants Echo to acutely feel the loss of what she misused.
So she makes it psychological.
Exactly. By removing Echo's ability to initiate speech, allowing her only to mindlessly repeat the last words spoken to her. Hera surgically removes Echo's agency. Echo's voice was her instrument of control, her way of shaping reality and guiding a conversation.
Right.
And Hera takes that instrument and literally turns it into a mirror.
It's the total erasure of the self while leaving consciousness completely intact, which is it's horrifying. I mean, think about it for a second. Imagine waking up tomorrow and finding that your inner monologue is still racing, you still have complex thoughts and desires, but you are physically incapable of articulating a single original thought.
It's a nightmare.
You are trapped behind your own teeth. Your entire verbal existence is reduced to a passive receptor. Like if someone says to you, "I hate you," you can only say "hate you." You become a captive to whatever language happens to be thrown into your vicinity.
And the psychological weight of that condition is staggering because, the Greeks placed a massive premium on the concept of voice and glory, the ability to make oneself known in the world.
Right, your legacy.
Yes. To strip someone of their ability to initiate a narrative is to basically strip them of their humanity. Echo is reduced to a reactionary function of the landscape. And, having established this agonizing vocal prison, the narrative then introduces the exact catalyst required to maximize her suffering.
Because losing your voice in a vacuum is terrible, sure, but the true tragedy requires a moment where you desperately need to use that voice to save yourself or express yourself, and you simply cannot.
Exactly.
So enter Narcissus. He wanders onto this doomed mountain to hunt, and the sources really emphasize his unparalleled, striking beauty. Echo sees him from the shadows of the trees and falls instantly, just catastrophically in love.
She is experiencing this tidal wave of sudden, desperate emotion. But her curse paralyzes her. She cannot step onto the path, introduce herself, or declare her feelings.
She can't do anything.
Nothing. She is forced to stalk him silently through the woods, just boiling over with an affection she has absolutely zero mechanism to express. She is entirely dependent on him to provide the raw materials for their interaction.
Which leads to what has to be the most frustrating, absurdly tragic conversation in all of mythology.
Oh, absolutely.
Narcissus senses he's being followed. He stops, looks around the empty woods, and calls out, demanding to know who is there. And this is it. This is the trigger. Someone has finally spoken, which unlocks Echo's ability to speak.
But the reality of her curse immediately corrupts the moment. When Narcissus calls out defensively, like, "Is anyone here?" Echo can only shout back, "Here!"
Right.
And Narcissus, completely confused by this disembodied voice, shouts, "Come to me." And Echo replies, "Come to me." She is desperate to convey love, but she is constrained by the vocabulary of a startled, increasingly agitated hunter.
Okay, I was thinking about this, and the best way to explain this to you, the listener, is with a modern analogy. Imagine trying to confess the deepest, most vulnerable love of your life to someone, but you are physically limited to replying with the exact same emojis they just sent you.
Oh, well.
Yes, right. Like if they send a confused question mark, you can only send a question mark back. If they send a stop sign, you reply with a stop sign. It perfectly highlights the absolute impossibility of human connection without an autonomous voice.
That is spot on.
You cannot build a bridge to another person if you are only allowed to use the defensive bricks they are throwing at your head.
The emoji analogy completely captures the structural impossibility of her situation.
Yeah.
You just cannot forge intimacy through pure repetition.
No.
Intimacy requires two distinct voices bringing their own original thoughts to the space between them. And because Echo can only parrot Narcissus's defensive, confused hostility, the interaction just quickly devolves. Narcissus isn't hearing a woman trying to connect. He's hearing a bizarre, mocking presence in the woods.
So naturally, he rejects her. He spurns this weird Echo in the bushes and walks away, leaving her shattered. And the worst part is, she never even got the chance to really try. She was disqualified from the game before she could even make a move.
Her rejection is absolute. But, in the mythological framework, Narcissus's behavior does not go unnoticed. The universe demands a balancing of the scales.
There are always consequences.
Always. The gods observe his complete lack of empathy, his cruel dismissal of Echo, and they intervene. But they don't actually need to invent a new punishment for Narcissus. They simply activate a dormant failsafe that has been attached to him since birth.
And I am so stuck in the mechanics of this failsafe. Our sources mention a prophecy given to his mother, right? That Narcissus would live a long life only as long as he never recognized himself.
Right.
In a modern context, that makes no sense to us. We see ourselves in mirrors, in windows, on our phones, like 100 times a day.
Yeah.
How does a person in the ancient world navigate life without ever recognizing their own face?
Yeah, we have to completely detach from our modern mirror-saturated environment to understand this. In ancient Greece, seeing a clear, undistorted reflection of yourself was incredibly rare.
Right. They didn't have glass mirrors.
No, polished bronze mirrors were expensive, and even then they offered this warped, dim view, and the water in a stream is moving and fractured. So the concept of knowing thyself visually was an anomaly.
It just didn't happen.
Exactly. And philosophically, the prophecy plays on the Greek ideal of moderation. To look too closely at oneself is an act of extreme vanity. It's a disruption of the natural order.
Okay, so the gods just need to engineer a scenario where Narcissus is forced to confront a flawless, high-definition image of himself.
Yes.
And they lead him to a very specific pool of water on Mount Cithaeron. The sources describe it as perfectly still, untouched by animals or wind, like a flawless natural mirror.
And when Narcissus leans over to drink, he sees the reflection and the trap just snaps shut. The prophecy is fulfilled. He recognizes himself, but he doesn't understand that this is a reflection. He is captivated by the beauty in the water, falling as instantly and deeply in love with the image as Echo fell in love with him.
That parallel is crazy.
There really is. He tries to embrace the figure, but every time he touches the water, the image shatters, only to reform when he pulls back.
And he becomes completely tethered to the edge of that pool. The obsession overrides every basic human survival instinct he has. He stops eating, he stops sleeping, he is entirely consumed by the feedback loop of his own image, and his physical body begins to shut down.
The irony is just punishing. Narcissus rejected the messy, complicated reality of another person's affection, only to be destroyed by the sterile, unreachable perfection of his own image.
Yeah.
He literally starves to death, wasting away until the gods transform his remains into the narcissus flower, a plant that famously grows along the banks of rivers, its heavy head perpetually nodding toward the water.
Forever looking at its own reflection. The slow, agonizing death of Narcissus is horrific. But the camera really needs to pan back to the shadows for the true gut punch of this myth. Because Echo hasn't left. She is still trapped in the trees by her curse, watching this entire gruesome process unfold.
She is the ultimate captive audience.
She watches the man she loves slowly starve to death over a puddle of water, and she is structurally powerless to intervene.
Right.
She can't walk up and shake him. She can't shout a warning to snap him out of the trance because he isn't speaking to her. He is only whispering to the water.
And the emotional toll of that helplessness destroys her alongside him. The sources describe Echo pining away in the woods, just paralyzed by grief in her vocal prison.
It's so sad.
Her physical form slowly erodes. Her bones turn to stone, merging with the jagged rocks of Mount Cithaeron. Her flesh withers into thin air. By the end, her entire physical existence is erased, leaving absolutely nothing behind except the cursed mechanism Hera forced upon her.
Just the disembodied voice.
Yep. The disembodied voice, doomed to endlessly repeat the final syllable spoken by others.
If we pull back and look at the architecture of both these demises, the symmetry is deeply unsettling. You have two distinct tragedies unfolding on the same cursed mountain, driven by the exact same underlying mechanism.
And the synthesis of the myth really lies in the concept of the reflection. Both characters are entirely annihilated by reflection.
Right.
Narcissus is trapped by his visual reflection. His obsession with the curated image he projects outward completely severs him from physical reality, resulting in the death of his body. And Echo is trapped by her vocal reflection.
Yeah.
She is hollowed out, stripped of her internal narrative, and forced to only output what others input, which erases her identity until nothing but the acoustic reflection remains.
Erased by the visual and erased by the vocal. That dual annihilation completely rewires how I will ever think about the word echo. We use it to describe a mundane acoustic delay, but the etymology holds this staggering warning about the fragility of human identity. When you hear an echo, you aren't just hearing sound waves. You are hearing the ancient mythological representation of a woman who lost her ability to participate in her own life.
The vocabulary we use daily is literally built on the graveyard of these intense cautionary tales. The ancients used these myths to map out the very real dangers of psychological extremes.
It is wild to think that 4 simple letters contain an entire dissertation on the importance of maintaining your own voice in a chaotic world, you know?
Yeah.
The cosmic danger of hubris and the absolute devastation of an unrequited love that you were never even allowed to confess.
Which brings us to a final necessary realization about why this myth from thousands of years ago feels so uncomfortably relevant right now.
Okay, I'm listening.
We view Mount Cithaeron as a fictional, cursed landscape. But consider the specific nature of the traps that destroyed Echo and Narcissus, and then look at the architecture of our modern digital lives.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Right. Echo's curse was the total loss of original thought, the mandate to simply regurgitate the words that were just handed to her. Narcissus's curse was a fatal obsession with a curated, two-dimensional projection of himself, prioritizing the image in the pool over the physical world around him. When we log on to our social media feeds, are we not stepping directly into a modernized Mount Cithaeron? The algorithms incentivize both of these ancient curses simultaneously.
They really do.
We are encouraged to mindlessly retweet and share, echoing the sentiments of others without adding our own voice, while simultaneously obsessing over the metrics of our own heavily filtered reflections.
We are alternating between Echo and Narcissus with every swipe, the endless repeating of the crowd and the fatal obsession with the self-image. The technology is new, but the psychological traps are thousands of years old. So the next time you casually drop the word echo into a sentence, remember the mountain. Remember the nymph who lost her voice and the boy who fell into his own reflection. The ancient drama is always hiding right beneath the surface of the words we take for granted.